Welcome to another episode of the Feminine Truth Podcast. I am so excited to bring you a guest that I found on TikTok, and her name is Eve. Eve, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm
Yes,
excited.
I'm so excited. So I found you randomly on the TikTok algorithm, and I was really drawn to you because you were so raw and authentic. And even you were not even all dolled up. You were just genuinely talking about dating. I think it was about ghosting. And the next TikTok I saw you, it was somebody criticizing you about not wearing makeup or something in your face. And you were just so honest about why. And it's like how you handled that criticism that really drew me to you. And then I just followed you. And then it's like, oh, this woman shares TikToks about dating, her life. Like she has not even like no filter, but you're so honest and genuine. So I just wanted to invite you. So thank you so much for coming. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are? Because you are not a dating coach, because I initially thought
No.
you were a dating coach. You're actually a lawyer. Why don't you tell us a little bit how you stumble upon TikTok, being a lawyer?
Sure. So I've been a lawyer for about 8 years, and I ended up on TikTok because in 2021, my roommate at the time was going through her egg freezing journey, and she wanted to make TikToks about it, which is kind of where my platform has landed in this idea of women over the age of 30 who are, discussing taboo topics and doing things that conventionally 10 years ago weren't being done or at least talked about, right? And so she wanted to, along those lines, talk about her egg freezing journey online. And she sat in her bed, and I sat with her for like 4 hours trying to make TikToks about her egg freezing journey. And she kept wanting to get the lighting right and the makeup right and the outfit right and the words right. And I remember just being like, it's okay. Like you can just video it. Like people care more about the story than that the lighting's right. Like you're talking about egg freezing. That's what's important. But we were come from such a background of Instagram and these like perfectly curated profiles and these perfectly curated narratives that it was right when, COVID hit and TikTok was starting and people didn't really know yet how to use it, and wanted to like put five filters on everything. And so I went into my room and I was just messing around with it, trying to figure out how to help her. And I just started posting stuff like completely randomly about being single in LA, places you can meet people, places like with COVID, the different bars and restaurants that were open, not open. And I kind of started getting good traction on that and just was like, wait, this is kind of fun. This is a creative outlet. It's very different from the law. And I enjoyed having like a right brain, left brain activity every day and not just reading documents. And so I just kept doing it.
No, yeah. And I actually love that because the comparison with Instagram, it has to be perfectly curated. I have not posted on Instagram just because it doesn't vibe with me. It's been over a year because
Yeah.
I'm not perfectly curated in
No.
my daily life. I am a hot mess. Someday I'm wearing like a pineapple bun, like my baggy sweatpants, a hoodie. I like being comfortable. And a lot of times it's like, oh my God, do I want to show up on TikTok like that? People are going to eat me alive. And I've been eaten alive, but the comments, like the most cruel people are on TikTok. If you want
Yeah.
to experience not be liked or be hated for nothing, go on TikTok because the commenters, the people have no filter. The trolls are crazy. How have you been able to handle the criticism and all these people when you show up authentically as you?
It's it was really bad when I very first started. I'd never experienced that, right? Like I'd gotten made fun of as a kid because I'm 5'11". I'd always gotten made fun of for my height and been like, oh, you're the Jolly Green Giant. And I've gotten made fun of here and there for different things, right? But never in this way that like this person that I've never met, never seen, oftentimes doesn't have a profile picture or you can't see anything about them, is taking these like very personal jabs. And for the first, I would say probably 6 months, it would hit me. And this weird shift occurred where the fact that I was still showing up and still posting and gaining followers while I was doing it, it suddenly became like my superpower. Like my confidence was being built by it. That like not only am I like gaining followers, but I'm able to like withstand the hate. I'm able to like withstand people trolling me. And I was like, wait, I must like be confident in myself. And then like telling myself that I like felt it. And so now I like kind of find it funny. And I'll every now and again, like when I'm in one of my moods, because I can have like sassy moods when I'm in one of my moods, I'll just kind of like go at them. but it's not like from a I'm hurt place. It's from a like, what are you doing, sir? Like, and it's generally not to make generalizations. It's 95% men, but maybe that's just on my profile. I don't know. But the ones I get are 95% like men.
But it's usually men calling you like cat lady, or you're gonna end up alone and die alone with cats. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, cats are preferable over so many men. Like, how is that an insult to me? Like, I always say, like, no, I'm allergic to cats, so I know I'm not gonna end up with 1,000
Right.
cats. But if I did, it would be a preference over you shitty men out there, you
It's
know?
well, the thing about it is it's like it's always the same jabs. And I'm like, if you're gonna take a jab, like at least be creative, like make it a little spicy, give me something to work with. But it's always like, you're a cat lady, you're gonna die alone, you're single, you're desperate, you're gonna roll over in the grave, you look 45, you're gonna be childless. It's the same, like I can narrate the 10 that I get. And I'm just like, cool, cool. Got anything else?
Mhm. Yeah, I know. It's the same old story. Okay. I actually do want to bring up something that I noticed during October that you posted and I was not aware about it. So October was Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Mhm.
And I literally, you never talked about this in the time that I followed you.
Yeah,
And all of a sudden you came up with your story. And I think you even posted some screenshots of text messages or things, something like that.
yeah,
But you came out with your story. And I was just like, oh my God, I had no idea you have gone through that. She had gone through that, you know?
yeah.
So then I just want to know if you're open to sharing your journey
Sure.
of what it is like to be in a abusive relationship.
Sure. I think that a lot of people I don't have any problem with the fact that I've been single for 5 years. I am on a journey to find my person. I'm not on a journey to get a boyfriend. And I think those are two different things. And the longer I've spent alone, the more confident I've been both in myself and in my independence and ability to be alone. And I don't want to like destroy that peace or my happiness just again to have a boyfriend, like on paper or whatnot, right? But a lot of people don't understand how we got here or like what the backstory to that is. And realistically, it was a combination of that relationship and COVID that kind of sandwiched on either end. And so it's only been in the past, I would say, year that I've been able to date and been mentally in a good place to date, right? So I met my ex-boyfriend at work in 2015, I believe. And we did not live together for the first like 9, 10 months we were together, which is normal, obviously. And so I wouldn't see him every day. I'd see him once, twice a week. And so a lot of things that I look back on now that I would have thought of as red flags now, I didn't because we weren't seeing each other every day. So patterns and habits that you would see with someone you're spending a week consecutively with don't show up when you're spending a day with them. On top of the fact that there was this idea that he was like vetted because I worked with him. And it's like, maybe I'm being crazy and delusional. And it was the first time I'd ever been in a relationship with anybody, even like approaching this. So I would say for the first year, um, there was this weird combination of like love bombing and like putting me down both at the same time. It would be like what people describe as like the typical cycle of, I'm in love. I mean, he said I love you like 3 weeks in. Like, and that's like as a woman who hasn't experienced this before, you're a little distrustworthy of it, but you also, it's what you want. You want to be loved. And so, it's easy to fall into a trap of believing the good because you want to believe the good. And so he would say that. And then we would get into a fight about something really silly. Like I remember getting into a fight because I like mentioned my ex prior to him. I like made a comment about it. Not that I liked him, wanted to be with him, anything like that. Just like, oh, I've been to this restaurant with XYZ person. You know what I mean? Or I don't remember, something completely innocuous. And he would lose it and stomp off and disappear for 3 or 4 days. And I wouldn't hear from him. And then it would repeat and he'd come back. And he would like do some grand gesture, like he got my face on his credit card. So like every time he paid, like my face was on his card, right? And this just kind of snowballed. So it was like little, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until 9 months in, he decided he wanted to move back to California. He's from California, and asked me if I wanted to move with him. And I was kind of like, I'd been in DC at the time for 6 years, I think. And I was like, yeah, I'm open. Not because I saw a life with him forever, but because I was like, um, if I'm going to leave DC, LA is where my best friend lives. It's a place I'd be interested in living. If it doesn't work out with him, I'd be interested in being there anyways. And I remember distinctly the night that we moved in together. I paint, and I had all these paintings on the wall, and it was 9 p.m., the very last night on his lease, the first night for us to move in together, and he hadn't moved any of his things in. And he was scrambling and yelling and freaking out and just complete meltdown. And I worked 2 jobs at the time. And I had to get up at like 6 in the morning, and because I was a teacher or something, I don't remember specifically why I had to get up, but I had to get up very early. And I was like, I need to go to bed. Like, you have to finish this alone. And he took a butcher knife, like a knife this big, and he slashed every one of my paintings. And I remember just being like, what the actual hell have I gotten myself into? And we'd been like drinking red wine while we were packing and stuff. And he took this big 2-liter Magnum bottle of red wine and he held it over his head. And he was like, I'm going to fucking smash this everywhere. And he smashed it on the floor. And this is like our apartment. And there's red wine all over the walls. There's glass everywhere. He's holding a knife. And I just remember like packing up all my stuff. And I coached soccer at the time, and calling a mom of a girl I coached and saying, I don't know what's going on. I need somewhere to stay. Can I stay with you? And she let me stay there for a week. And looking back on it, so I coached soccer. During the course of that relationship, I stayed with other families that I coached, because I did that as a second job. I stayed with other families that I coached probably 1 week every 6 months, because something like this would happen. And I never wanted to tell my parents. And they were kind of like my second family, these parents, right? And it was like from that point on, it just cycled. We'd be in the car together and he'd threaten to wreck the car. He'd throw glass bottles at my head. He'd punch the wall, punch our TV, punch me, tried to kill my cat. Like it just snowballed. And I can say it now without like getting upset, because I did extensive therapy about it. And I can't remember what it's called, EMDR, I think, where you like hold the pads and you re-talk through the trauma and like reprocess it. And I can talk a lot about it, but it was a pivotal moment in my life, because I realized like you have 2 choices. You can go down with this, or you can figure out a plan and get out. And I was like very logically thinking through these 2. And what hurt me more than this was the guy I dated after telling me how weak I was for being in a domestically abusive relationship. That has stuck with me every day since then, because every woman I think has experienced some form of at least verbal abuse from a guy, if not more. And to have someone tell you you're weak because of that was more crushing than the experience itself. I'll stop in case you want to go in a different
No,
direction.
no, no. I'm not saying this is great. It's not. I'm so sorry you went through that. I left my abusive relationship in 2015. It
Wow.
was emotional, verbal, psychological, financial,
Right.
spiritual abuse. And I felt so much shame because I'm educated,
Yeah.
I'm smart, I have a degree, I
Right.
have
Like,
all
how do we
this
get here?
accolades. How come a woman like me, the shame I felt as a woman, fell for
Yeah.
that type of relationship? How did I allow myself to be abused, cheated on, went back, the trauma bonding? People don't understand. And I'm getting goosebumps just because
Same.
the shame what that I carried was for so many years, being ashamed of telling people, being ashamed of myself, the shame I felt when I looked in the mirror. How did you allow this? And kind of like abusing myself, bullying myself in a way, because I would be so hard on myself. And when I did my healing journey, when I started this journey, there were barely any people talking about narcissistic abuse. there was really not a lot of people talking to about narcissistic abuse. So there was this podcaster, no, I'm sorry, YouTuber. He has a book and everything, and he had a clinic close to me. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like somebody that can actually help me. I go
Yeah.
to his clinic, couldn't afford his because it was out of pocket, it was too expensive. So I end up going to one of the therapists in his clinic under him. And she completely sided with my narcissist because he came into one of the therapy sessions because he wanted to talk to me. And I said, the only way I will talk to you is if you come to a therapy session and I have someone like a
Yeah.
mediator. Toward
Right.
the end, she completely sided with him. I felt so betrayed because she knew everything I have gone through. And I never went back to therapy after that. I had a very like sour taste and I felt
Right.
betrayed. And I said, I thought that she would be the one helping me to heal. And I think that what I experience with everyone, the stigma and the kind of like misconceptions about the type of woman who fall into these relationships.
Yeah.
Everybody says you're weak, you don't love yourself, you don't know better. I'm like, you have no idea.
Mm.
Any woman can
Yeah.
fall, goosebumps can fall for these relationships because these men are master manipulators, love bombers. They tell you the right things, they pretend to be someone they're not, they hide their true selves, and once they come forward with who they really are, you are in it. You are like enmeshed,
Too
you are
late.
trauma
Yeah.
bonded, and it's so hard. And people don't understand the gaslighting. So I am so sorry that man said that to you. And how did you move on from that? I know it, you said it's still with you every day, but how have you been able to cope with knowing that that's not true?
I think that the my mom has a lot of issues with my TikTok. I'll start there. She's a very private person and she has a lot of issues with how open and vulnerable I am publicly. And it doesn't necessarily gel with my job and my career. My career knows about it, like my firm knows about it. My boss is well aware of it and follows me. But there's obviously a diametric opposition there. But for me, the I've gained the most confidence and clarity on who I am by talking about it. It's almost like journaling. Like I know not everyone treats their TikTok this way, but I've treated my TikTok as though like I'm writing myself a little 1 minute journal at the end of the day. This is how I felt today. This is what was going through my head. And oftentimes it's about being single and dating. Sometimes it's about random stuff in pop culture. Sometimes it's about like an awkward moment, but it's been so therapeutic for me, and that's a weird way to put it, but it's been so therapeutic to say my, like, truth and then find that other people resonated with it and be like, "Okay, I'm not crazy, I'm not alone." Like, it's almost reversed the gaslighting, it's reversed the feelings of, insecurity or shame because the moment I say XYZ happened to me, 100 people are going, "Yeah, me too." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so that's I think how honestly, it's been the biggest growth for me confidence-wise is to realize that I'm not alone in this. Like, I'm just a little drop in the ocean, and all women or a lot of women are going through these same experiences and emotions about all of this.
No, it's true. And even honestly, family, it's an issue with me. Like they don't, I mean, my family speaks Spanish, like that's our first language. So like my parents, I know they're not super, they don't really know what I talk about. They just know that I share a lot about that abusive
Yeah,
relationship. And I came forward with my story, obviously, after I left, after I find out, after I started healing and felt empowered. And I was so trolled by him, my ex, and his
I'm
friends.
sure
I'm still trolled to this day on TikTok when I bring up about the
that
story. It still happens every single time. So they're still out there. That's never ending for me. And he was a public figure here in Chicago, and I've
gotcha.
never said his name. I'm
Right.
like, it's not even about him. It's about
Uh,
my experience, what I've went through in helping other women. And with you, when you share your stories or what you've been through, you're relatable because so many women are going through the same thing.
yeah,
The
and nobody talks
especially
about
the
it.
dating, the abusive relationships, so many women and a lot of women stay silent because of shame. The
Yeah,
shame, it's like it follows us everywhere. And just dealing with that for me, it's like I'm putting myself out there too because it helps me with the shame because I'm teaching myself that there's nothing to be ashamed because I fell into these
yeah.
relationships. It doesn't matter how educated you are, how smart you are, how much you know the red flags, everything. This year, I still found someone that was extremely misogynistic, sexist, put me
Right.
down because of my body, told me I was not a real woman because I was not thicker and had a bigger booty. I was not a real Latina because I did not have a big booty, and racist. And I'm just like, me knowing all these things, I coach women. I still fell for this because of how manipulative these men are, like
Mhm.
how they present themselves. And I was just like, you know what? Any woman could have fallen for that. And
Yeah.
there's nothing I should be ashamed of.
Well, and the reality is that society teaches us that the most important thing for women is to be like a wife or a mother, right? Like
Mhm.
whether that's true or not, it's pumped into our brain through social media, through the media on TV, et cetera. It's like your goal is to find a husband, find a husband, find a husband, right? So it makes complete sense that we as women would do everything in our power to make a relationship work, even if it's with the wrong man, because we're told that our ultimate goal, our ultimate purpose is to be a wife. And even though in my mind, I know that's not the end goal. I know that's not going to like fix my problems. It's not like if I get married, I'm suddenly not going to have anxiety. Or if I get married, like I'm not going to overspend 1 month. Like they don't, it doesn't fix anything, but that's so pumped and ingrained in us that it makes sense to me that a woman would fight for a relationship notwithstanding the red flags, whereas a man who's told it's better to be single, better to be a bachelor, would leave at the drop of the hat or the smallest little problem.
Yeah, I think we women are so understanding,
Yeah.
especially if you are the type of woman who's empathic, has a big heart, is sensitive, and you know about trauma, inner child healing, and you know like how our past affects who we are. We tend to bypass a few red flags because we're so understanding and we want to find love. We want to have a relationship. And I'm like, I understand he had a horrible childhood.
Right.
He can change because you've changed. I've changed. So I believe
Right.
the men can change. And it turns out to be that not everyone can change.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So growing up, did you grow up with that ingrained that you needed to get married, you needed to have a family? Is this something that you also want, or is more your upbringing?
I think combination. So I grew up in the South. My dad's British, but I grew up in Alabama. And so my parents didn't really force that kind of narrative, but definitely my surroundings, right? Because in Alabama, most people are married by the age of 25. So that was something that was constantly like reinforced. But I knew from like the age of 13 that I wanted kids. And I remember specifically, I don't know if you're a zodiac person at all, but I'm a
Yeah.
Cancer. And my uncle, who's really into astrology, I remember him sitting my mom down and being like, you need to put her on birth control early because she's a Cancer and her chart says she's going to have a lot of kids. So you better deal with this. And my mom was like, well, what are you talking about? And he literally was like, you need to, like, she wants kids. She's maternal. And I've always wanted kids. I've wanted them as long as I can imagine. If I could have 5 kids, I'd have 5 kids. So I froze my eggs last year basically because I knew I wanted kids, and would I love to have a partner and a parent for that journey? For sure. If I don't, will I have kids alone? Yes.
It's okay. That's so interesting. I didn't know you had frozen your eggs. That's
Yeah.
something that I was interested in my early 30s, just because I do have endometriosis. I only have one ovary. I had a
Right.
tumor removed from my uterus 5 years ago. So I have all these conditions that I'm
Sure.
like, oh my God, I could have a hysterectomy anytime. Something could happen. I don't know if I want kids. I've never had that itch or that feeling, even
Yeah.
though I have a lot of maternal energy, especially with my
Right.
nieces and my nephew, but I've never felt the itch. For me, it was more the way I was brought up. And I'm Mexican, so I was brought up in a culture in Mexico where you are indirectly raised to be a wife. They teach
Right.
you all the things, how to clean, how to
Yeah.
cook, how to wash the clothes by hand, like everything. I don't know how you grew up differently than me, but for me, it's very culturally ingrained.
Right.
And you have to get married, have a husband, is what my feminine lineage did. And I was always like, no, I don't want to get married. I never thought about getting married. And I'm like, if I get married, it's gonna be when I'm 35. Well, I got married at 35, divorced like 2 years later. And I'm
Wow.
happily divorced right now, so I've done it. I'm like, "I did it. I
Yeah.
hit the milestone, and it was not for me. It was not the right person." But
Yeah.
I've always wondered what it feels like for women to know that they wanna have children and have that inner feeling. Like, I've never felt that. I've never pictured myself pregnant, like, nothing. And I
So
just gave up. I'm sorry, I just gave up the hope of freezing my eggs. I'm like, "It's so expensive," 1. 2,
yeah.
don't think I want it.
Well, have you gotten your fertility tested?
No.
Okay. I would, on my soapbox, I would get your fertility tested because you can go to like an OBGYN or there's fertility clinics like Kind Body and it's like $25 or 40, whatever your copay is. And they'll do your blood work and they'll test your ovary and they'll basically tell you, what your hormones look like. And then it might be that they tell you, look, it's not viable. And then you don't even have to worry about making that decision, right? Or it might be, and they might tell you, like, you probably have another 5 years. And then, but at least you kind of understand your parameters. I'm very risk averse when it comes to stuff. Like, I just want to know the facts and then I can make the decision. So I'd advise you do that. What I was going to say about that though is, and I don't know if you saw my TikTok on this. So I had an abortion a
Yeah.
year and a half ago and I got so many questions from people being like, you want kids so badly. Why would you have an abortion? And I had always told, and I remember my best friend questioning me about this, and I had always told my best friend, I believe that people should have the choice, but I would never have one. I was like, I want kids too badly. I would never have one. I would never have one. And so when you say I've never known what it's like to have that maternal instinct that you always want to have kids, I've always had that instinct. But when the reality hit, I realized it was so much more than just me wanting a kid, that there were so many other factors. There were factors involving the father being present, not present, wanting a part in this child's life, that it was such a bigger decision than just this feeling that I wanted kids, right? And so I know I want kids, but I also know that it feels to me in some ways unethical to do it just for the selfish reason that I want kids. Like, I want there to be a plan. I don't want to provide kids I would not want to provide my kids with an unstable home or like a shitty childhood, but I have always wanted them. So
That's so
it's
nice.
there in my like I see a baby and I run to that baby and I'm like, I'm picking this thing up. Like, hope that's cool. And all my friends are like, you can't just take other people's babies. And I'm like, baby.
Definitely no. But I do feel like that with my nieces and nephew. Like I
Well,
like
they're family.
they're my everything. Yeah, and I do feel very maternal. Like one of my niece's mom tells me like you're more a mother to her than I am. Just because I'm so loving, I'm so
Yeah.
warm, I'm so like I'm their safe space. So I'm like I'm just Auntie Mary. I'm fun Auntie Mary. I want them to come to me because I'm a safe space
Right.
and I want
Love
them to
that.
one day look up to me. But yeah, like the thought of me, like I'm child free by choice right
Mhm.
now. I literally this year is the year that I'm like, you know what? I just need to stop like going back and forth
Back
with
and forth.
inner
Yeah.
conflict. Do I want children? I'm like gonna be 40. It's not like it's an easy decision for me anymore. It's I have an age limit too. And it's not that women over 40 cannot have children. They certainly can, but I do have
Right.
some issues that it's like I also have to think about what I'm going to put my body through it. And I also
Right.
have to think that if I get postpartum depression, am I going to be able to handle that knowing that I struggle with depression and anxiety? Do I
Right.
want to put myself through that and a baby and a child through that? Do I want to bring a child into this world? Like I would like you know what terrifies me? My
Right.
child causing my child trauma and them having to heal from me as a parent.
Oh God. That's my worst nightmare.
That is my worst nightmare. And that
Yes.
is the reason why I'm like, I don't
Oh,
think I would be heartbroken, devastated. Like if even the slightest thing, I don't want to give him a piece of gum, he's gonna think I'm neglecting him and grow up feeling neglected and abandoned or something. Like it terrifies me.
that's why I want boys and not girls, because I feel like I'd cause less trauma to boys. I feel like if I had little girls, I'm like, the damage you can do to a little girl, we are fragile.
Yeah, and I'm
As
still
little
healed.
kids, we grow up, but we are very
Yeah.
fragile.
And I'm still healing my inner child. I'm like, how
Yeah.
am I gonna raise a child when I'm still healing my inner child? Not that it's not
Oh.
possible, but me thinking so much in the future, I'm like, I can't. And Right now, I'm also single by choice, so it's not like I'm looking for a partner. So I'm like, okay, if I meet someone logistically, it's not gonna work for me. So I'm like, I just need to make a decision for me. Doesn't matter what's gonna happen in the future. What do I want right now? I'm like, I don't want to have children. I want to be single, celibate right now. I'm on this journey. And I spent so much of my 20s and 30s on dating, on men,
Yeah.
getting into this relationships that were abusive, and I regret it. I regret it that I wish somebody would have mentored me and say focus on your career, focus on your goals, and I
Mhm.
didn't. And now I'm at this age that I'm almost 40, and I'm like, I wasted so much time. Yes, there are lessons, but I still wasted time, you know. I should have been more level-headed, more focused, and I wasn't, and it's a big regret. So now I'm here, but I want to talk to you about now about this finding a husband, which it feels so exciting to even think about it. And I just love the fact that you're so bold, so unapologetic. You're like, yes, I want a husband. Help me find a husband.
So it's been fascinating. I still get probably 100 emails and messages a day. And I don't know, I haven't gotten to get through them. They're from like multiple different countries, different languages. And it's part of the reason that I don't know if you saw this, but I'm working with a tech founder and we've developed this app that's basically like to create the same idea, but for others, right? Because what he reached out to me and he said, look, I would pay $10,000 to find a wife. He was like, I'm ready. I think he's like 38. He's like, I'm 38. I'm do tech startups. I'm settled in my career. I want a wife. And he was like, the dating apps feel like people just basically there's no accountability. People ghost, people, whatever, whatever. Right. And he was like, I've used matchmakers, but you pay $5,000 and you're not guaranteed to meet anybody who you like. Like there's no guarantees. You're just paying for them to look for people for you. And he was like, I love the idea that you're basically updating the matchmaking trend, right? And you're doing an updated version of matchmaking for 2023 and using your networks and being like, why the hell are all of our friends always saying, I've got someone, I can introduce you to someone? Like, if I had an open job and I knew my friend was a perfect candidate, I'd refer my friend. Why am I not doing that for people's dating lives? It's like people just don't want to do it. They're so focused on themselves and they don't want to think about it. They don't want to worry about the fallout. Like, what if you two break up? Well, what if you get fired from your job? Like, and, he was like, "But I don't have the social media presence that you do." So he was like, "I don't have Instagram. I don't have Facebook. Like, who would I ask?" And he was like, "What if we could basically like create crowdsourced matchmaking?" Um, and I was like, "It's kind of what I'm thinking." And so, we developed this app called the Arrow. And what's cool about it to me is that I've had my married friends like swipe for me, but they don't actually have like their own profile, right? They can't like make a profile and go on and look and connect and think about it. And my married friends now have this opportunity. Like I have stay at home married moms who are like, yeah, I know people in LA. Like I would love to set somebody up with them. They might not be a perfect fit for you, but they might be a perfect fit for one of your friends. And so it's kind of gained traction in that way where people are like, this makes sense, especially since it's come out that effectively a lot of the dating apps have made it impossible for you to match. Like they're holding the people you want to match with behind paywalls because they know that who you want to match with. And it's like, so we're paying for Hinge to hide the people we want. We're paying for matchmakers who can't guarantee us a match. They're just finding people. And I'm saying, look, let's not make this about money. And maybe that's because I have the freedom to, because I have my own job. And so I'm not worried about this making millions of dollars. But I'm like, I'm worried about finding my own person and other people similarly. Let's create like a GoFundMe crowdsourced option to find love where you only pay a dime if you find what you want. And yeah, I'm really excited about it if you can't tell.
Yeah, that's such an exciting project, but just the whole process of you being so unapologetic about wanting a husband and putting it out there when a lot of women's like, oh my gosh, I would be dead if somebody knew that I was, you know how people say it's desperate energy, but it's not. It's like, why does it have to be desperate because you want to find love?
Manifesting, it's telling the universe I'm ready. It's like it's how you look at it. It's so many people, it's like you can look at something as it's desperate energy to talk about it, or it's being like, no, I'm ready to find him and I'm willing to pay for him because I know he's there. I know someone knows him. And the more Like, frankly, the more podcasts I go on, the more people I talk to, the more connections I make, the more likely I meet them, the more people I meet.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you can think it's desperate, but like, not you, but people
Yeah,
can think it's desperate and that's their prerogative, but I'm okay with your thoughts. You're not my person.
yeah, yeah, that just disqualifies you as a
Yeah.
potential candidate.
Right, like, that's cool, like, you're not because I think of it as such an adventure, and I've done everything else in my life by, like, making a plan and taking, steps towards it, right? Like, you wanna work as a lawyer, you study for the LSAT, you take the LSAT, you go to law school, you study for the bar, you take the bar, you apply to jobs, right? There's steps. You wanna run a marathon, you run 2 miles, you run 10 miles, you run 15 miles, you run the marathon. You wanna whatever, everything will you wanna lose weight, like, everything has steps to get to your target. Okay, I want to get married. What are the steps? What do I do? And I don't know. Have you ever listened to Matthew Hussey?
Mhm.
So I don't love all of his stuff,
He
but
just
I
got
saw
married too.
really, yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen like random here and there TikToks, and one of the TikToks he did that I saw that I thought was interesting was he said, if you want to find love, here are all the things you should be doing besides dating. Like all the other things you should be doing in your life. And one of them was basically expanding your network because then you're meeting new people in new environments who will introduce you to new people, right? So joining clubs, like, because not just for the club, not just for love, but just because you're going to be introduced to a new pool of people. And that's what I think about it as is like, okay, so one of the steps is expanding the people I know. And this
I
did it. So
Yeah, no, no, totally. And I hope like if somebody, who knows, maybe somebody will watch this or listen to this podcast and
yeah,
that will be your person. You never know. You never know. But you gotta put yourself
maybe you
out there.
know him.
I know, right? But when you were talking about your app, there is this Facebook group. Like, there's this Facebook groups like, are we dating the same guy
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
every single city? Okay, but there's also Facebook groups vouched men or
Right,
people that you know. So like I am in it and I'm not even looking, but I'm in it because it's so
right.
cool how the women post themselves or I'm looking for my person. This is this age, these are my qualifications. Let me know if you have anyone. So it's kind of like a matchmaking, which
Yeah,
feels more natural because I'm like, that's right. Like maybe somebody knows their person and they're gonna be able to find it. And there's so many couples that have found their person in that group. And I'm just in it for the stories because I'm like, when I'm
yeah.
said, are we dating the same guy? The energy there is like you never want to date again. It's so low vibe. It brings you down.
Um,
It keeps you in this mindset that all men are shitty, all men are the same, which is not really true. There's still good people out there. There's still good candidates
it's
out
like
there.
Reddit vibes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Reddit
Yeah.
energy.
Exactly. And there's this other group that there's hope. It keeps you in the illusion that, yeah, there's still romance. There's still like people that believe in love, people that are looking for love. And it kind of makes you feel like there's nothing embarrassing or shameful about posting that you are looking for someone.
Yeah, we are
Mhm.
like literally most people are,
Yeah.
like this isn't abnormal, guys. Most people are looking for somebody, and you're not going to meet him sitting on your couch. I mean, you might meet an online friend, but it boggles my mind because I had a lot of really positive feedback, but then I did get all the backlash, all the like, oh, she's desperate, blah, 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 blah. And it boggles my mind because to me, being your authentic self is like your most beautiful self. Like if you were being true and you're telling the universe what you want and you're being real with people, then like how could that ever be ugly? Like I don't did you ever read the book The Velveteen Rabbit?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay.
But
You
I
should look.
saw it like on Friends. They mentioned that on Friends. That's my favorite show, like with Chandler and
Yeah. Uh-huh. So you should look up the quote about being real on the Velveteen Rabbit. I've got it inscribed on one of my pair of shoes, but it basically says like you can never be ugly if you're real. And because it was like you can have all your hair loved off, all your like you can have scratches all over you, but once you're real, you can never be anything but beautiful. And I don't remember how the wording goes, but I just love this concept that like and it's like when people look more beautiful because they have their natural hair color or they look more beautiful because they're like without makeup because you glow. There's like a glow about like being your true self.
yeah, I
Hard
love
to be in
that.
this
I
world though.
love that. I love that. And who cares about the people calling you desperate or the backlash? like they're not your people. So you already know. I'm like,
Oh,
why are you watching my TikToks if you're not my people?
exactly. Well, and half the time they follow me and I'm like, you literally follow me just to get mad at me? Like, go on with your life, sir.
I feel
Like,
like it's these people that allocate their energy, their time and effort trolling, commenting. I'm like, are you not happy with your life that you have to
right.
go and spread all your bad energy on other people? Like the comments that I also get, but I also like, when sometimes I'm on your TikToks, I see the
Yeah,
comments or other creators, and I'm
right.
like, do these people not have time? Like, do these people not have like their own lives, And why I
Or I
think
wonder if it's like their
I
exes.
think they're looking for the dopamine hit of getting angry and the roller coaster
Yeah.
of those emotions. It's like, gosh. But I was gonna ask you, have you created space for your person in your home?
Yeah. Have you read the book, Bringing in the One?
No, but that's what I did when I manifested my ex-husband, even
Okay.
though it was not aligned. He's still a great person to me. Like I still
Yeah.
talk to him today. It was just not an aligned marriage, but I created space for him and I did so many
Yeah.
things in manifesting for him to come in and he came in super quick. Mhm.
That's so interesting that you say that. So there's a book called Bringing in the One that I got from like some crystal store last year. And the whole book is about like all the different things you do to like bring in space. Like, yeah, you only need one nightstand, but like have two. Like, you know what I mean? Like I have a king bed. It's just me, right? Like making sure like I have two bar stools at my counter, like all these little things, making sure there's room in the closet for their space, making sure that like there's room if they wanted to bring artwork in, like all that kind of stuff. And so I've done a lot of steps. I wouldn't say I've fully done it, but it's definitely not a bad, like a guy could move in here and he would feel comfortable.
Mhm.
But that's funny that you bring that up because there's also all this like feng shui surrounding it, like where you should put certain items. And I should actually do that with this apartment because I haven't since I moved in it. But I was reading that book and I've seen multiple people recommend it because of the same thing. It's I forget who it's written by. It's called Calling in the One though.
Calling
And
it
it's
the
like the
one.
whole book is
Okay.
just like all the different things you do. And like some of it is like gratitude and manifestation. Some of it is like what you do with your home space. Yeah, she says you can call in the one within 7 weeks.
Oh,
Um,
that's so
I've,
exciting.
I've reread it like 4 times and I've never gotten through the entire thing because it's like 400 pages. So I've gotten to like chapter 5 and I think there's 10 chapters or something. Um, I'm determined I will get through it. Then he's just gonna magically appear, right?
But the most important thing is like, what are you looking for? Like, what are the most important qualities for you in a man?
I get asked this a lot actually, and when I say the answer, people seem to like think it's not real because it's an energy thing for me more than anything. So if I had to pick one physical characteristic, it would be height, and that's because of my height and because of the fact that a lot of men are insecure about me being tall. I'm insecure about me being tall, whatever, whatever. That being said, if I met a 5'8", 5'9" guy out at a bar and he had the right energy, I wouldn't care. It's just hard to know that energy online, right? It's hard to, so I start at the 6 foot parameter because that energy it's less, or there are less people that are insecure in it under 6 foot. So physically that's it. Everything else that I've ever said, I would describe my perfect person as the perfect wedding date. I want somebody who like is going to work the room without me, has the autonomy and ability to do that, hold a conversation about a many different subjects, be like, for lack of a better term, like a Renaissance man, can talk to my dad, brother, whoever, right? I don't have a brother, but if I did, and maintain the ability to hold those conversations, but also can come and check on me, but also is going to be able to dance, take a shot, like have his own good time. And what I mean by that is he has his own persona, he is his own person, but he also can be by my side and doesn't have to outshine me, can let me dim and can be beside me respectfully and checking in on me and being a date. What I and the reason I say that is because the opposite is a guy who needs you, can't talk to people without you, needs your attention, needs your security, needs you beside him the whole time, or someone who's non-attentive, who completely leaves you and looks for that attention elsewhere. And so the perfect wedding date would not do either of those things. You can both independently work the room and hold your own, but when you come together, you're respectfully together and having a blast. And that is hands down the most important thing to me in a person is they can hold their own, they have their own life, but together we are better and have fun and are able to balance each shining and dimming beside each other.
I love that. That's so
That's
different than
it. Like,
anybody else's explanation. What are you looking for? Values. Like, they give you the list. This is more like an experience.
yeah,
The experience that you desired. I love it.
I don't care what their job is. I don't care how much money they make. I don't care if they're Black, white, Asian, Latina. I don't care what their religion is. Like, none of that is important to me. I will say what I described is more prevalent in certain cultures and certain races and certain areas, right? Like, I think what I described is definitely more prevalent in someone from the Midwest or the South. It can be, right? It is more prevalent, I would say, in Latina culture or in an Italian culture. Like, there are certain places it's more
Yeah.
prevalent, but I don't have any constrictions otherwise.
Mm, I love that. I am so excited for your journey. And obviously I follow you, so I'm gonna be watching everything. But what do you feel is the biggest lesson that you have learned in dating?
I hate to say it, it's such a cliche, but the moment you stop looking for him and the moment you stop chasing, you attract. I I mean, I post all the time about my single stuff, right? But I stopped actively texting people my 35th birthday this July. And what I mean by that is if I didn't hear from a guy, I didn't reach out. I was communicative if they were responding to me. If
Yeah.
a guy didn't ask me on a date on Bumble, I didn't say, so when are we grabbing a drink? I just didn't respond, right? I wasn't rude. I didn't ghost. I stopped putting any energy places where I wasn't getting it back. And I just matched it. And the amount of attention I've gotten since July has been tenfold. I mean, aside the whole looking for a husband thing, just like in the wild, like the amount of attention like I've gotten from men because I'm just literally leaned back sitting there. And I hate to say it because it's such a cliche, but it is the truest thing. And it's been a total energy shift for me.
I mean, it's it's the fact that you're leaning back, you still desire it, you're still like in a way,
Yeah.
but not actively chasing and looking for it because you put it out to the universe. So now
Yeah.
everything is working on your
Right.
to you, to come to you to receive it. But it's when you like lean back and you're like, I'm not gonna pursue someone that's not pursuing me. Because I'm like you, like when they communicate, yeah, I'm gonna communicate back. That's still
Right.
because I want to pursue that person too. Because I'm like, I want him to know that I'm also interested, that
Right.
I want to know him. I want to know what his mindset is. I want to have those deep communications. So I do that a lot. But the moment you pull back and you're like, I'm just gonna put it in the universe, it's out there, and I'm just gonna take care of me and I'm just gonna detach and not be this anxious, like it's not coming, it's not coming, it's gonna
Right.
come, it's gonna come. That's like a given, everything starts working in your favor. And right now, like I told you, like I'm single by choice, like I'm like literally don't have the time and the energy and the effort
Do it. Yeah.
for a man right now. I literally don't. With my lifestyle, my routine, I don't have the time. I don't. And my heart is not close to love. It's not at all. I just don't
Right.
have the time. So it's when two men want to date me and want to marry me and all the things and everything that they do for me. And I'm like, but I'm not dating. Okay, we're going to wait for you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, where did you come from?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's funny what you just said that I'd never thought about, but I think this is so true. It was almost like I told the universe I'm looking for a husband in July when all that stuff went viral, right? And I was like able to let go. I was like, okay, I put it out there. And I remember thinking this the other day. I was like, if this gets posted in 26 countries to this many men and I don't find my person, I'm sure as hell a lesbian. Like that's just like there's no further advertisement. Like, I don't know how else to put it out there. If the universe says, nope, sorry, then I got to look some other avenues. And it's true. It's like, you're totally right. The reason I feel like I can just lean back is like, I put it out there so aggressively that I'm just like, okay, cool. I'm here now.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's been like almost like a huge relief. It's like that you can't I feel like I've done everything I can do and now it's okay to just sit.
And I feel like you're so in your feminine energy right now because you're lean back. You're I think you're an extrovert, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So now you're like enjoying your life, enjoying this
Yeah.
process. Like want to get to connect with people, want to get to know more people. So like you're not only your network is expanding, but you're just like so like soft. You have softened into this journey and you're just waiting for
I'll
him to
take
show
it.
up and like show up.
I mean, it's been really fun, honestly. It's just been like I've had a lot of fun hearing people's stories, understanding that knowing that you're not the only woman feeling this way is so empowering. It's so empowering because you're just suddenly like, I'm not crazy. And like it's okay to feel this way. And that's been really nice.
Yeah, and you know, like one thing that I actually do love about your feed, and this is also why I started following you, is that sometimes you show up with no makeup, nothing, and I'm just like, the man that falls in love with her is gonna see her for who she is. So there's
Yeah,
nothing. You know how a lot of people say women catfish the filters
right, right.
on dating apps. I'm like, no, you're getting the
Like go
real
on my
Eve.
TikTok. Somebody wrote on one of my TikToks like a couple weeks ago. They were like, if you ever get a merch line, it needs to be like an oversized t-shirt merch line because all my TikToks are in like huge baggy t-shirts. And I was like, that's on brand. That's fine. I
But
could do
yeah,
that.
like, but that's who you are every single day. And
Yeah.
this person needs to see that sometimes this is you. Sometimes you're dolled up, dressed up when you go to work
Right.
or whatever. Sometimes you are in a workout clothes. Like it's diverse. We don't look perfect all the time. It's impossible. And feeling that you have to be so perfectly curated so people can find you like I guess like they more appealing
Or
it
aspiration.
yeah, it's just so exhausting. I don't have the time every single day to put on a full face of makeup and do my hair. Sometimes I'm telling you, every single day is usually a pineapple bun. It's huge.
Right.
My hair is huge.
Right.
And I'm just like,
You
I
have
can't
beautiful hair, by the way. I love your
thank
hair.
you. Thank you. So then you have inspired me to just show up unapologetically. Doesn't matter what I'm wearing. And sometimes like I feel like ratchet some days because what I'm wearing, I'm like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. There's just no way I can show up on TikTok. But sometimes it's like,
Right.
who cares? This is who I am every
Right.
day.
Well, and the thing about it is that I think the importance is that you're having a creative outlet, right? And that you're getting your message out there. And if you wait till you're fully made up, I work from home. There are days I never put makeup on for 3, 4 days in a row. I would just not make TikToks for 3 or 4 days, right? And I don't want to do that because it's like I said, it's like journaling. So I just had to get over it. I just had to be like, well, sorry, here's me hungover with pimple patches on. Deal with it.
No, but it builds your confidence.
It
It does
does.
because you have the courage to show up authentically as you. So that builds confidence. Confidence is built by repetitive showing up
Yeah.
for yourself, having the courage, and it just builds, it accumulates, it compounds, and then you feel so confident. You're like, yeah, my person is gonna look at me, whatever I'm wearing, be like, gosh, she's so hot, you know?
I had this serious talk with my friend the other day because she was putting filters on all of her photos. And not just like a filter here, a filter there. I mean, she was fully face tuning, zooming in, like we were squishing and bopping. And I was like, you're going to start to see yourself as this person. And that's the only way you're going to feel beautiful. You're not going to feel beautiful in the way you truly look. And also, filters and like overly filtering things make you look like a millennial and you don't want to look old. And like, she was like, you're right. And she stopped doing it. And I remember she came to me like a week or two ago and she was like, you're right. She was like, I've started to like appreciate the way I look because I'm not constantly looking at this like altered version of myself. And not that makeup like alters you, but you know, if you get used to only seeing yourself in makeup, you won't feel pretty unless you have it on.
And I just feel like for women, it's never good enough.
No.
Nothing it's ever good enough. This is why I was so into bodybuilding. I still work out every day because I love taking care of me from a place of like, I love how I feel, like
Yeah.
empowered. I love taking care of my body, but it was never good enough. Like, no, you have to keep working out. And I wanted a big butt. I'm Latina, so I always had this ingrained that
Yeah.
I will only be worthy and valuable if I have like a bigger booty because I'm in fitness. So fitness girls gotta have a big booty, and it was never good enough. And it got to the point that I'm like, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted that I have to keep increasing the reps, increasing the weight, and it's never good enough. Like if I stop, it goes away. I'm like, it's never good enough. The makeup, it's never good enough. The filters, nothing is ever good enough. And now AI, like all these things, now it's like, it's what are we doing? Like it's never good enough. So we just need to find a place that we love ourselves for who we are without the filters or anything and be okay with that because everything else, it's never going to be good enough for us women because of society.
Right. Or do like if you do your because I don't have any issue with people who get work done or whatever. Like do it, but do it for yourself.
Yeah.
Don't do it because you think that this is suddenly going to fix the problem. It's not. Like no amount of Botox is going to make you 20 again. It's not. Like that's the reality. But if it makes you feel better, okay.
Yeah.
Um yeah, it's a fascinating thing because I really do think, and this sounds so counterintuitive because I think social media has been hard for a lot of people, but it has built my confidence probably more than anything else. Just knowing that there are other people who felt the same way. Um, so it's been a positive journey for me,
I
at
think
least.
you're not alone. You found your people. A lot
Yeah.
of people relate to you, to your story, your authenticity, your beauty, like your natural beauty, like how you just show up unapologetic. That's like the word for you, unapologetically showing up on TikTok. Doesn't matter what you're wearing, you know? And
Such a big
I'm so excited for this journey. So, why don't you tell us where obviously everybody can reach you? Everything is going to be in the show notes, but is it TikTok your main platform right now?
Yeah, so it's B as in boy, Tilly on TikTok. Same on Instagram, Evie Tilly on TikTok and Instagram. And then the app and the socials for it are the Arrow app. So it's the Arrow dot app. And then just the Arrow app on Instagram and TikTok. And yeah, you can watch me fall in love
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
because
So,
I
if
will.
anyone is listening to this that can be a good candidate, wait, what age are you candidates that you're looking for?
Age?
Age. Is there
Oh,
an
I don't
age?
know.
Oh, you don't have an age limit.
Told
Oh,
you it's an energy thing.
I'm considered a cougar now, but I'm like, no, I will not go younger for me.
I I would I'll go younger. I mean, realistically, I'd go 25 to 45. I'm 35,
Okay.
realistically.
Okay.
Which I think is like kind of any age, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, if you're listening to this podcast and if you know someone that can be a great candidate for Eve, shoot your shot. That's all I'm gonna
do
say.
it. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for coming on the podcast. Your energy, everything was so much fun. I love this conversation. Thank you for sharing uh, more of you on this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.